My wonderful, beautiful, amazing Cancers for this week. I'm going to be doing the Vlad Dracula Tarot. So, everybody, we're pretty much now heading off towards the spooky season of All Hallows Eve, right? Very special occasion, right? Just remember how I'm going to be having that performance virtual video and stuff like that. But anyway, this rating for today is going to be based off of the Vlad Dracula 11 card spread cross, and you'll see it in the thumbnail. Now I actually understood what the thumbnail means and not just how I have thumbnails here. But it's pretty much, just okay, based off of the 11 cards of what will be and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into like the historical parts of each card for that matter, but I will actually mention like the main titles. Like for example, card number 1, you get 8 of Cups. And so card number 1, the significator forms the base of the cross. Everything in this reading will be built upon this foundation. Well, what do we know about the 8 of Cups? It's pretty much just taking off and heading off towards a certain direction, right? But you could also be heading away from something or heading towards something as well. I mean, and it's a general reading, it's like maybe you're going to be relocating to a different city, state, country, what have you, or maybe you're going to be moving into a different home, house, what have you. But anyway, there's definitely movement on its way. And if you even want to get a chance to watch one of my previous videos about the history of Elizabeth Bathory and blood, as long as blood flows through the human body, it means that the human body is functioning. But if there's some kind of setback of some kind, it means that something needs to be corrected or fixed, for that matter. But here it just shows that as long as there's movement and that you're pretty much just heading off towards a certain direction or you're heading away from something, as long as you pretty much have this really beautiful concrete decision, then, the rest is pretty much going to be, guiding you towards the outcome or goal of wherever it's going to be guiding you towards, right? So, then we get to card number 2. You get Queen of Swords. Aquarius, Libra, Gemini energy, if you have any of those. So card number 2, crossing the significator. This card represents the challenges that will have to be overcome in order to achieve the desired outcome. So you're heading away from something, but this is what you'll need to actually have, the challenge of actually creating a plan. Okay, let's say that this is just a concept idea. You have this vague idea of thinking, okay, I want to relocate to maybe a different home, city, state, country, what have you. But, the problems that we have is actually making sure that, that the plan is going to work and that it is a legitimate plan for that matter as well. So, I mean, of course, you have this very beautiful, intuitive, your senses are very beautiful, sharp and stuff like that. But sometimes it's always good to maybe, look into what kind of, resources, what kind of voyage, is out there, what kind of planning, because if you have to maybe travel and stuff like that, okay, what's the best means of transportation, all those types of ideas. But that's why you already have to start planning right now, or maybe if you've already been doing that. But sometimes, it's like, it's not always going to go always according to plan. And so it's like, I even mentioned this to Aries if you even have Aries placements, but Aries was also kind of like, I mean, I'm also an Aries, but Aries also got kind of like a reading, to make sure, that, any kind of upcoming plan that's going to work. But the thing is sometimes, you're faced with these unforeseen circumstances where, you pretty much have this very beautiful laid out plan. You paid for everything. Everything is just looks, bright as anything. And then suddenly an unforeseen circumstance all this, kind of shatters the whole, voyage and quest, right? If that were to happen in any way, please be 100% forgiving towards yourself on so many levels and never feel like, oh goodness, if only I would have done this and that. You had a beautiful plan. I mean, that's what you were already kind of creating with the Queen of Swords. But the thing is it's not always going to work out, but always to say, okay, sometimes these situations happen. It's not nice. But, it's best just to kind of think, okay, these are just learning moments. And also experiences. So, now we're going to head off towards card number 3. The Tower, Aries energy. Okay, speaking of Aries, right? So, card number 3 above the significator, this shows the ability or skill you'll need to have in order to achieve the desired outcome. What this is all about is like also unforeseen changes and anything, because that's kind of the thing with any kind of planning. And like even, for me as an Aries, and I'm even going to mention this because I even mentioned this to other Aries and Aries placements, is that, it's like, okay, well, for this upcoming performance, even though it is virtual and stuff like that, it will take place in like this kind of graveyard area, so we can actually honor the deceased, the passings of anybody and stuff like that. But the thing is what this is also talking about is, you'll need to kind of like embrace unforeseen changes. Let's say that it's going to be a very stormy evening. I love storms and stuff like that, but is it going to be benefiting? No, absolutely not. So then I'm going to have to maybe change, venues. Maybe I'm going to have to try to manage, the performance at my home base and stuff like that. Or maybe, suddenly, let's say that, a couple days before the performance that the human calls in sick or stuff like that, how am I going to quickly find a new pianist, right, for that matter? I mean, that's kind of the thing. Is, it's kind of, it just, realizing that there's unforeseen circumstances and changes that could be taking place, but always be so self-forgiving of yourself. And this is what I'm even telling myself, and this is what even the human, even tells me. And, when something is outside of your power, outside of your own actions and stuff like that, it's like these things just happen, okay, well, maybe it might break, maybe it might be this, maybe it might be that. So, but it's always good to have a good plan, but always, embrace, any kind of unforeseen changes and circumstances that could, will somehow, have some kind of negative impact on your plan. Then we get to number 4, Queen of Cups, one of your beautiful cards. This is the first bar of the cross, forming the basis of future and past events. The specific card represents present circumstances. Need I say more? Water sign, water card, Queen of Cups, and of course, my tarots have no genders and stuff like that, so it doesn't, specifically mean that all are just only focused on women in this reading and stuff like that. So what this is mostly talking about is that you're a very caring, loving, supportive, nurturing individual, and that's why you have this good plan. You're pretty much just watering your crops. You're pretty much thinking, okay, this is what we're more or less just heading towards and stuff like that. So this is where you pretty much just think, okay, it's very important just to kind of, be very loving and caring and understanding of the whole situation for that matter, and never feel like, oh goodness, it's like, I shouldn't have done that, blah, 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 if only this, if only that. Yes, if only I would have walked away from, the vampire who turned me, right? I mean, it's always, it's like whenever I even get, these cards, whether it's the Lovers, Three of Swords, or Death for that matter, is that it does bring me back to that moment, but yet, okay, sometimes, you just have to kind of, allow yourself to process those moments again and stuff like that, and not just think, oh goodness, we have to forget about it. It's only been like maybe 10 years and stuff like that. Sometimes these memories and moments just show up, and then you just pretty much have to reprocess them again or try to move forward. Because the 5th card, get Queen of Stakes. Okay. So, and this is the second bar of the cross. It shows the highest possible outcome and is an indication of what will be. It's a Leo card. You could have Leo placements, and of course, it's actually one of your neighboring cards. But here it is that you're going to have so much strength, confidence, boldness, and also just this sense of actually this fiery passion within you. And of course, who wouldn't want to have a beautiful, strong side? The thing is that, it's like, it's important to embrace any kind of new changes, new beginnings and stuff like that, because, change is usually good, usually, I always say that with a grain of salt myself, but usually good in the sense where, that there's pretty much, going to be new growth, new, ideas, new people, new what have you and stuff like that. So this is pretty much already actually talking about how you just think, okay, in the highest possible outcome, I will actually have this a real great sense of strength and confidence within myself because I proceeded with this plan. Yes, you have to actually, know that there's always going to be the possible chances of these big, unforeseen, changes or events and stuff like that. But as long as you embrace them, and then you pretty much are already on the winning side of having confidence within yourself nonetheless, right? Then we get to cards 6 and 7. So 6 is about the immediate future and 7 is the immediate past. So in the immediate future for 6, you get Lovers, and speak of one of the cards I pulled for the vampire. Okay, Lovers, Gemini energy. So this will pretty much going to be taking place in your future, love, maybe from other people. It's like if you're actually changing course towards a new location and stuff like that, you might actually, will be receiving a lot of love, admiration, care, support from other people. But you could also open up new portals in the sense of new ideas, new crossroads of thinking, okay, we proceeded with this plan, and now we're pretty much in the beautiful options and opportunities card where we actually have the luxury of choosing which alternative direction and course we're going to be heading towards in other ways. And that's a really good thing to have because a lot of humans, and hopefully, it's like, you could probably benefit, from some of my readings because this was even also meant for me, is, a lot of humans, they don't really have like the confidence within them to actually, head out towards, new venues, new countries, new cities, new change of anything and stuff like that. What happens is that they pretty much just stay in their own comfort, which 100% your prerogative. No judgment ever coming from me. But the thing is, then you just think, okay, this is just who I am. Other people, they're actually, gaining new insights and experiences, but yet it could also put you in a position where you probably think, well, I kind of feel kind of left out of this, And that's something to always kind of look into. It's always kind of like a little bit of an introspection within yourself. Okay. Now we get to the number 7, which is the immediate past, strength. Now that's what I'm talking about. It already looked like that you had strength within yourself. So kudos on achieving this very beautiful Leo 9 card, for that matter, one of your neighboring cards. So this is what already, it's like you get the Queen of Wands in the future. You already get strength and stuff. So I feel like, okay, you did an excellent job. You overcame probably some maybe internal, fears, whether they were irrational or rational fears for that matter. It's like no judgment ever coming from me, but this is what you already had deep down inside. Yeah. It's like when you already know it was there in the first place. That's when it makes it extra special, doesn't it? Wow. Then we get to cards 8 and 9. So 8 is in the distant future and 9 is in the distant past. So in the future, you get 10 of Cups. Happy home, happy earth, happy family, and abundance. So this is what's waiting for you. Have confidence. You have strength. My goodness. Need I say more? It's like these cards are already expressing themselves in the best way possible. Outcomes. And then in the past, you had the 7 of Cups. And you pretty much just thought, okay, it's like this is pretty much, seem kind of a little bit, hesitant. I mean, it's not quite like the 7 of Pentacles, but this is pretty much just kind of thinking, okay, it's like, it's really important just to kind of, just embrace any kind of unforeseen circumstances. It's pretty much just kind of, because, the 7 of Cups was pretty much already having options and opportunities, right? So you have 2 different types of options and opportunities. You already had in the past options and opportunities, and in the future you get 10 of Cups. So, if you're one of these individuals that is either, so heading off towards college, I can see how you pretty much might just think, oh goodness, it's like, well, what if all this, isn't going to work out in my favor and stuff like that? What if this happens? What if that happens? Embrace any kind of unforeseen changes or circumstances for that matter, but know that eventually, it's like as long as you keep at and stuff like that, when you open up new pathways, voyages, stuff like that, you're actually gaining probably new insights, experiences for that matter as well. And then this is what was already being presented to you. Because now we're going to be heading off towards the beautiful outcome. Wait, what? Yep. Because this was 8 and 9. And now we're going to head off towards 10 and 11. The outcome of outcomes. So 10, you get 4 of Cups, an offering, but there's definitely going to be some kind of hesitancy coming from you. And then 11, you get 5 of Swords. So the thing is, it's like you're definitely going to be winning some big battle, whatever it may be. But there's always going to be the sense of hesitancy. Now, the 4 of Cups is also a beautiful luxury card because it is kind of being, presented with a gift of some kind of offering of any way. But this is kind of also just, testing your senses and intuition. And what are they testing? They're testing to make sure that everything is actually going to be working out in your favor and not feeling like, oh goodness, this just seems like just a fool's errand, fool's gold and stuff like that. But there's definitely an offering on its way because you were actually being presented with options, opportunities and stuff like that. And you will be winning some big battle of the 5 of Swords. Now it could be, defeating your irrational fears for that matter, where you just think, oh goodness, this and that is all just going to happen. But I actually want to kind of, mention this part because the human even mentioned this. I don't think I mentioned this to the last few. But if you are being presented with an offering and something is kind of holding you back, especially when it comes to a 4 of Cups, make sure that the offering is a legitimate offering. It's like sometimes these commercial pages, like wherever they may be, presented and stuff like that, saying, oh yeah, if you want to have a job and stuff like that, making a lot of money, all you have to do is reach out or do this or do that. The thing is you want to make sure that it is a realistic outcome and goal, and voyage that's pretty much heading towards you is meant to find you as well. Because there were actually, these real uneasy, or just, just, concerning moments in the sense where, these humans, they pretty much, they are being presented with an offer saying, hey, don't you want to work at our company and organization? And then it just turns into one big fool's errand, or fool's gold for that matter as well. So the thing is, if your senses and intuition in the future are actually holding you back and say, well, let's think about this for a moment, Cancer. We need to really make sure that it is a legitimate offering. I think I just mentioned this to Taurus, if you even have any Taurus placements in your star chart. But the thing is this is actually almost, just kind of checking in with yourself and actually make sure it's what you truly want, wish, dream, and desire, and not that you pretty much just think, okay, everything just looks promising and stuff like that. Because maybe we'll actually, defeat some kind of, con artistry or deceptive individual as well with the Five of Swords. But anyway, it is just a general reading. It doesn't have to resonate with anybody in any way possible, but that's kind of what the cards have for my beautiful Cancers for this week. So I'm going to have to leave it at this for now, but if this reading resonated for Cancer placements out in this world, please feel free to reach out and even, subscribe if you're ever interested in more Dracula, more vampire tarots, and what have you, other, historical stories, especially about the Casket Girls and the Carter brothers, because pretty soon we're going to be talking about the Count of Saint Germain. But other than that, next week I'm going to go back to general readings, and then before even, we head off to the All Hallows Eve, I'm going to have a couple more Dracula readings for, Cancers and for all the zodiacs out in this world. But other than that, I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and best of luck on this very beautiful journey of yours.